There's an agenda. Linda, do you need an agenda?
No, I have one.
You got one?
Thank you.
Rebecca, you need one?
Sure. Oops, thank you. Oops, sorry.
All right. So I'll make a motion to open the November 1st, 2023 meeting of the Groveland Community Preservation Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, so we've got a couple of new members. This is Kim Jackson. He's representing the Groveland Housing Authority, taking over for Betty Gorski. And then we got DJ McNulty on the planning board, taking over from Jim Bajages. And Carrie Lynn Goodwin, who's not here, is taking over for Jim from the finance board. The other, there's two other positions. One is for affordable housing, but the Affordable Housing Committee doesn't exist. So we've gone back and forth. I've gone back and forth with Rebecca about how we'll deal with that, but not going to talk about that tonight. But the other representative represented the Open Space and Trails Committee, but the Open Space and Trails Committee got folded into the Recreation Committee, which Jason represents. But so I think we're going to have Recreation have two members. That way there we won't, because without going back and changing the bylaw, we're tied to 9 members, and if we're down 2, it's kind of a pain in the neck. So I asked Kerry to get a second person from the Recreation Committee that will kind of take the interest of trails and open space. And I don't know if she did or not.
The last meeting was canceled lack of quorum. However, I do believe Steve Baker is interested.
Oh, okay, good, good. All right. So, so that's our membership. So thanks everybody for coming. And I thought, you know, since we've got at least 2 new members here, that I would review some of the CPA purpose and other things that probably most of us know about. But the next thing on the agenda is the chairperson. So I am the current chairperson through 2023, one more month. And so what I wanted to know is if anybody else wants to be chairperson. No?
I'm new, so
No, thank
not
you.
me.
No, thank you.
I'm,
That
wi-
would be excluded
I'm
anyway.
willing to be re-elected if you want me to be.
Oh, how many years?
Oh, I don't know, I've lost track. I think it's been like 16 or 17 years. So
DJ will be taking your place next time.
yes, well, that's fine. That's
How
fine.
about tabling that vote until we have the other 2 members?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll see if either one of them want to serve.
I make a motion to table that until the next meeting.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor of tabling the chairperson? Unanimous? All right, so next thing on the agenda is to review the CPA purpose. So as I say, you know, for some of us who have been on the committee for a while, we understand what it is. But, you know, this goes way back. Groveland voted to join community preservation back in about 18 years ago, I think.
2006, I believe,
Hmm.
2006.
Yeah, or even 2000, I think 2005 was when we
I got
actually.
the town report for 2004 here, and it was in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So, you know, we've had it for quite a while, and, you know, we've got 4 purposes that we can spend money on. We collect 3%, which is the highest that you can collect of people's local property tax. So it's not 3% of your property, it's 3% of whatever you pay of property tax. But currently, you know, we take in about maybe $450,000 based on that every year. And so the 4 purposes that we could spend this money on are acquisition and preservation of open space, creation and support of affordable housing or community housing, acquisition and preservation of historic buildings and landscapes, and development of outdoor recreational facilities. And the 3 categories that we are required to set aside 10% of whatever we collect are open space, housing, and historic. Recreation doesn't have a 10% set aside, so everything comes out of the remaining general account. And the other 3 can also spend money out of the general account. So it's kind of on the onus of myself and or Rebecca to keep track of where the money came from and what projects were approved by town meeting. So the good thing about CPA is we get to decide everything here in Groveland. So our role, the Community Preservation Committee, has got 2 major roles. The first is to promote CPA and spread the word about the availability of potential projects. So that's why we have representatives from some of the major areas that come under CPA, recreation, open space, and historic and affordable housing. So it's perfectly good for us to go back and look, and you know, sometimes like myself representing conservation, you know, many times I'll bring forward a conservation proposal or project, and that's perfectly legitimate. Then the second thing that we have to do is once we collect the projects, we have to read them, look at them, make sure they meet all of the CPA requirements, that they don't fall outside of the funding areas, which sometimes that's happened, and also make sure that they are viable. And then once we've done that, you know, we take a vote to approve them and ask them to go to town meeting. Usually that's pretty straightforward, but occasionally there's 1 or 2 projects that may not fit, you know, so that's what we have to look at. So those are the jobs we do, the major jobs. As I say, some of it is pretty straightforward. We're usually only have to meet 3, maybe 4 times a year. We probably won't meet again until January, when we have the proposals for 2024. The 2024 proposals will be due at the end of December, and then we'll distribute, I'll get them out to everybody, at least electronically, and we'll meet in January probably once or twice to come up with hearing from each person who's presenting the proposals to us, and then we'll make a decision usually by mid-February so that we can get it on the town meeting warrant and get it reviewed. Usually the projects get reviewed by the finance board and the selectmen, and because they want to make a recommendation at town meeting as to the funding and what the selectmen think about the project, which that can impact what the vote is at town meeting. So that's kind of the way the process goes, and as I say, we've been doing it about 17 or 18 times, so it's pretty standard. But every year it's a little different. Last year we had the most projects that we've ever presented. It was 11 projects, and all 10 of 11 got approved by town meeting, which again, that was a new record. We've never approved that many projects. But, it was difficult because it takes time at town meeting. People kind of want to know what the project is. They may have questions. The people who want to do the project are standing up and answering questions and trying to present what the idea of the project is. So it can be interesting, and if you've been at town meeting, you've seen it. Some years it's easy, really easy, 1 or 2 projects, but it's certainly harder when you get 10 or 11. All right.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The funding that we receive
Yes.
through the taxes, does that funding roll over from year to year, or does that
Yes.
number have to be used
No.
every year?
No, it goes into an account, and I'll talk about the finances in a minute, but it just stays there until we spend it.
Okay.
And that gets matched every year by the state.
Okay.
So in the past, maybe the first 8 or 9 years, they were matching it 100%. So we collect 400,000, they would give us 400,000. But in the last 10 or so years, it's varied for us from about 60 to 85%, which is still,
Still good,
that's still a good return.
Now, the projects that go through on warrant, if one of those projects gets approved, but they don't use the money, do they have a lot of time to use that money, and then does it come back to us if they don't use it within a certain amount of time?
Yes, if a project, say a project doesn't happen or it gets canceled, then that money just goes back into the pot. If a project doesn't use all the money, let's say they only end up using half of it, whatever's remaining goes back into the pot. As far as how long they have to do a project, originally we were saying that we wanted a project done in like 3 years, but town council said we can't put a limit on it. So now it's a little trickier because Rebecca and I have to monitor what the projects are doing and try to encourage people to close them out.
Yeah,
But frankly, we've got one project here that goes back to 2015 that we've been trying, it's still active, but it's hard to finish kind of thing. So most of the projects do end up taking about 2 or 3 years, some of 1 year.
Yeah.
But there's a few, for whatever reason, end up going for a while, and then we have to decide, is this viable? Is it going to ever go up, quit? So,
Thank you.
Do you have a list of open projects?
yes.
A
yes.
list of projects that are in the process of actually being worked on?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is that
yes.
available to the committee?
Yeah, I can print you out the whole, what I'll do is I'll email, because Rebecca and I just updated stuff, so we can send you the whole list of the status of every project. But I can, planning on reviewing, giving you a review tonight
Oh,
of
excellent,
what's going
thank you.
on. Okay, so any other questions about the CPA, our CPA purpose, or how we've done things?
Do we have a bylaws book or
Yes,
something?
there's town bylaws on the town website for community preservation.
Chapter 13 of
Yep.
the town report of 2004 has the bylaws.
Thank you.
You pass that around. This is the request for, the request for proposals for 2024.
And you typically continue to accept requests until mid-December.
Yeah, well, it says, doesn't
Why don't we
it
go
say the
forward?
end of December they do? Sometimes even after
Oh, this is just the
December,
process of doing it.
we can take them out, if we decide that's okay, you know, sometimes people have a, issue with, they're waiting on something or whatever. So, this document basically hasn't really changed in the last 5 years or so. We've made some additions, but it's basically the same thing. It's meant to do two different things. It gives people the idea of what a CPA project can be, and then it gives kind of an outline of what they have to put in their proposal. So the last 2 pages kind of are the format, you know, of the outline of a typical proposal or project description. So, you know, they list the applicant information, the location, the funding information, the project cost, the description, the goals, community need, et cetera, budget, a budget page listing a breakdown of how the money that they're asking for is going to be spent, and then a bunch of other things on that last page, page 5 there. So it's meant to provide anybody who's writing a proposal for whatever they want to do, guidelines on what should be in their proposal. And again, since we've been doing this for quite a while, most of the proposals come in, they're pretty much that way. The proposals typically may be anywhere from 3 pages to 50 pages. It just depends how much documentation and what the scope of the project is. But typically, you know, it's maybe 5 to 10 pages. I also have on our website, these things will be on there. They're not on there now. But typically, the request for proposal will be on there for anybody to access. Plus, I have a sample proposal from an older project that I put on there so people can understand what exactly it means on some of those things. So, what you should do is, especially if you represent one of the 4 areas, you should make sure that anyone in your area of representation has one of these and knows what it takes to put a proposal together.
Have you ever had a committee person prepare a proposal for their particular?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yep. Linda's done them, I've done them.
I did before I was on the committee, I did one.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
This is a
I'm new,
resident.
so I'm gonna
Yeah.
open my mouth and ask questions.
No, that's
No,
fine,
that's
Kim. So, let's look at the finances. So I prepared a list of typical things for where our finances were back in April for a town meeting. And so these things still apply. So the average home value in Groveland is $578,096, and the average annual property tax was $7,590. Based on that, the average annual CPA tax that a person with an average home pays is $228 a year. So it's not overwhelming, but obviously it's a tax. So I don't like to not call it a tax because it is a tax. And as I say, we do it at the 3% level. We could go lower, but that was what was proposed in the beginning back when we started. And two times we've had attempts to lower it, and they both failed. And to make a change, you have to basically you have to go have a vote, because that's how we put it in. However you put CPA in, you have to change it, you have to do it the exact way. So twice we had votes of everybody, and both times they voted not to change it. So, that's a good thing. The other good thing about having 3% is we get the biggest match from the state. So we collected in fiscal year 22, $422,665, and the state gave us an 82.5% match, which is good, which came out to be $348,605. So in that year, we were able to add almost $780,000 to our CPA account.
Right, maybe for benefit of the two new members, explain where the money from the state comes from.
Oh, yes. So the money from the state comes from the Registry of Deeds. So when you buy a house and you have to go register it, or even when we issue certain permits, like conservation issues permits, planning board issues permits, zoning board, they have to be taken to the Registry of Deeds and registered, and you have to pay something when you do that. And
The
it's-
old stamps
Yeah,
years
right,
ago.
right. And so a certain percentage of that goes towards community preservation. Plus, the last 5 years or so, the legislature has also put a certain chunk of money, like if they've got extra money that didn't get spent, or they don't see it needing to be used in the budget, they put it into CPA. So that's why, but that's why they used to fund it 100%. But for two reasons, the change is that the money going into the Registry of Deeds went down, and the other reason is more cities and towns joined, so they had more cities and towns to spread the money around to. But we're still in, we are the 23rd highest town in the whole state of what we get, our match. So that's pretty good. Again, because we're at 3%, you get more if you're 3%, plus something about the formula they use, which I don't understand at all. Groveland is good. Yes, and so a couple other numbers for you, and I'll put this and I'll email this all out. So including last year, we have we have funded 63 CPA projects. And the status, here's the status of what we have now, which is uncommitted funds. So these are monies, once we vote a project, those funds are committed. So the fund still might have more money than this, but those are committed, there's committed funds. So these are the uncommitted funds. The total uncommitted funds that we have right now are $2,372,000. So that's all money that is available for projects. But of course, depends on what the project is. So for instance, open space has about $560,000 available of the 2.3 million. Historic preservation has about $75,000 of that 2.3 million. Community housing or affordable housing has 552,000. And the remainder, or the general, that can be used for any of the four categories is about 983,000. So that's where we are through April. This doesn't include what was collected, the final number of what was collected in fiscal year '23, which again will probably be about $350,000, and whatever the state matches on that, which we'll learn about this month, and then they end up paying it to us sometime between now and April. So, you know, we'll be adding another, you know, 700, 750 to that. So, you know, by the time we go to town meeting, we'll have about $3 million that will be available to put towards projects. Any questions on that? I'm sorry that I'm reading these numbers off to you, but I'm just trying to give you a general idea, and I'll send you the specifics in an email.
No, it's good to know because first time, so it's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah.
We're at 2.3 now,
Yeah.
and expect to be about 3. Have we ever grown to a number where we don't seem to get down at all, or do we dwindle that number down?
No, we've been recently constantly between 2 and 3 million. And we're trying to try not to spend more than what we took in any given year. So that would mean, you know, our budget is, say, $750,000 for 1 year for all the projects we thought we should fund. But last year, we spent more than that, because it's hard to really say if they all qualify. You know, then it's not really up to us to say, oh, this one's good, but we don't want to fund that one.
Money's
So
there.
well, because we don't have any criteria to use, you know. It's not up to us to decide how good a project is.
Right.
That's really up to town meeting.
Yeah.
So all we can do is present it to town meeting and say, look, you decide whatever you think.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to tell you now about the open projects that we've got. So, let's see. Yes. So, last year, all 11 projects that we voted are still in No, all 10 that we voted are still active, except one. We did vote for a community trail utility vehicle, but that one's been canceled because they were looking for a state match and they didn't get it. So they decided, our planner decided to cancel that one. But the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yes, they're all in progress. So the first one was the Pine Skate Park. I'll ask Rebecca to tell us about some of these, because she knows better than I do what the status of them is. Just very quickly, tell us what the status is.
So we're currently in design with Spawn Ranch, and we issued a survey that's been put out on Facebook, website, and other social media, as well as flyers in and around town to gather feedback on the design. Once the design is finalized, we are scheduled for construction in the spring and summer, with the park opening in the fall.
Where was that gonna be located?
At the mines.
Where the current park is behind Town Hall, next to the cell tower, sorry.
Okay.
Next one was the Pines Tennis and Pickleball Court.
So the highway department has graded and prepped the site and have paved today. So we are looking to hold on all future efforts until the spring, when they'll come out and they'll do the surfacing for the tennis courts and the pickleball courts, and then we'll have fencing and then the netting.
Yeah, no, I saw the paving going on today.
And the Pine Splash Pad.
So we engaged O'Brien and Sons. They were the contractors who did the playground down at the Pines as well. And we met on site with the contractor, and we're just finalizing a couple of the details in terms of the water connection and sewer connection. But hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be able to initiate construction this fall if the weather cooperates, and then we'll put things on hold until the spring. And the park is supposed to be operational as of July 4th.
The basketball court at Washington Park.
So the highway department had also graded and prepped the area at the same time they were working on the tennis courts and pickleball courts. So they did that over at Washington Park for the basketball courts. So once the pavement is done, we'll again hold, and then we'll revisit and we'll do the basketball hoops, the striping, as well as the guardrail to separate the entrance from Washington Hall. And they also did prep Washington Hall parking lot for pavement as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the remaining money needed to park and hydrant seat at Washington Hall. And how about the cemetery monument restoration?
So I just sent out solicitation for a company to come in and do the work, since the work was over the threshold. I've received 2 responses thus far, just waiting for the last one, and then we'll initiate that project, and they'll begin in the fall, and then they'll wrap up in the spring and summer of next year.
The next one I can answer, the planting, maintaining, and preserving our trees. So this is kind of a multifaceted project. So it's got 2 main things, actually 3. Elm Square, the trees. I've been working with Rennie. He's got a contractor that's putting together another proposal for matching funds to work on the trees there. And then we've got a reforestation pilot project going on up at Vesey Park, and that's been making great progress. The town's been working with Diana Lotto working on that, and she hopes to be doing a whole bunch of planting next spring. And the third major part of it is the Washington Street corridor there in front of Vesey Park. We went through the whole procurement process, identified a vendor, and we're gonna be starting that probably this month. The VZ business plan, we have a vendor for that, and she started it. That this is where they're looking to assess the future sustainability of VZ Park and the revolving fund. And the last one is phase 2 of Lucille's Cottage. On this one, the architect is trying to finalize his plans to see what it would take to actually be able to rehabilitate Lucille's Cottage. So that's ongoing too.
That's also VZ Park.
Yeah,
So we got 4 projects that the,
3.
this money's going to on VZ Park.
3. The Lucille's Cottage, the VZ business plan, and part of the tree one.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the other, so those are all from last year, and as I say, they're all in progress, so that's good. Some of the other, there's 2, 3, 4, there's about 7 others here that are close to being done or are kind of ongoing. So there's a project that's funding open space conservation restrictions on 3 parcels. 2 of them are done, and the last one left is the CR for town forest. We're working with Essex County Greenbelt. They've been off and on depending upon how busy they are, so they just picked up again on the work that needs to be done on that. So hoping that gets done within the next year. There's a trail preservation project that was submitted with Bagnell School. That's ongoing. There's acquisition of 733 rear Salem Street. This is a small parcel that we wanted to buy, and the owner has just been indecisive about it. So either they're gonna decide in the next few months, or that one's gonna go away. There's a crosstown recreational trail up by town forest, and that's got some active trail work going on for that one, and still kind of in the planning stage. There is New Mill Pond Phase 1. This is related to the property at 46 Washington Street. We're just holding off to close that out because we were supposed to do a property survey of the land there, but we're holding off because we're waiting for a decision on some surrounding property to see how that goes. There's the buy-down program for housing with Groveland Housing, but with so many changes there with the pandemic, they didn't end up doing anything with it. So I'm not sure if we're going to end up having to close that out or if they can do something.
I haven't been brought up to date on that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll inquire.
Yeah, well, Rebecca knows about that.
We've been working with Clara and Dania on that particular matter and seeing if we can get it revived.
I would have thought that Kathy Prunier, since she's the chairperson, and I've been on the board for a year and a half, would have at least mentioned something to me.
Yeah, we've been working with Joe Hart originally, the former director.
He's long gone.
Yeah, so we started working with him, and then, like Mike said, the transition
Clara,
caused.
you'll get much better results out of Clara.
Yeah, Claire's been great, so we're just hoping that we can move it along, but there's a lot of projects that are going on in Haver right now, so I know her time is being eaten up by
Now,
a lot
well,
of
she's
that.
trying to straighten out several years of Joe.
Yeah.
And the last one is Johnson Pond weed removal phase 2. So there is a small amount of money left, and I'm looking into an alternative method for weed control. So either we'll find that implemented or it'll end sometime in the next
On
6
Johnson, on
months.
Johnson's Pond,
Johnson's Pond, yeah.
does Groveland technically have the rights to the water?
We don't have the rights to the water, but we own 2/3 of it. We own 2/3 of the pond.
Yeah, and
Well-
Haverhill owns where their abandoned pump station.
They just own that pump station, but Boxford owns the other third of the pond.
Okay, so Groveland controls 2/3, Boxford owns the other third. Haverhill
Haverhill
got,
has the water rights to it.
when do those expire?
They don't expire. They're trying to get rid of it. They're trying to, but it's so complicated. I've got the water department working on this to try to transition it from Haverhill to us.
They got the water rights to that probably back in the
Oh, yeah.
1940s.
Yeah, it's old. It's old.
Okay,
So those are pretty much the open projects, which, like I say, is 9 and 7, so we've got 16 open projects. And I expect that by, say, the end of the fiscal year in June, that we should be able to close out maybe at least half of them, right? Yeah.
okay. Who does the inspection on the project to make sure they comply with their proposal?
Okay, we have a process that we started a couple of years ago, right? Where we have a project agreement form, and whoever is in charge of the project fills this out. And they're supposed to provide reports, regular reports on it. And then when the project is done, they have another form that they fill out. So that's all the process that we've got to inspect. So most of the, because we don't have any staff, this falls on either, it fell on the finance director previous to having a town administrator. Now it falls on the town administrator. So 2 years ago, the committee decided we were gonna fund a part-time CPA administrator or staff person that would report to the town administrator. That's gonna happen eventually, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
When we have somebody like that, it will be easier, because right now, Rebecca and I pretty much track these things, make sure because it involves like procurement issues with them, making sure that they spend the money properly, that the work being done is what was in the original proposal, and that they follow all the local and state laws on procurement. So it's kind of complicated.
Oh, no, I've been there.
Yeah, so you know. So,
But they hot top down here today,
Yeah.
which is gonna be where the tennis court and pickleball courts are gonna be. The town prepped the soil underneath, and did they have a compaction inspection report? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm old school, I'm
Yeah.
a general superintendent for construction for 48 years.
yeah,
Okay, I remember when they were building these buildings,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, what, I guess I'm asking, is it being done right?
Yeah, I think from the standpoint of that particular project, it is. I know a lot of the groundwork was done when the town originally went forward and they were mining the site and redeveloping the site to create the pines as it was. So the drainage was already done and the initial grading was already done for that particular site
Okay.
in and of itself. And I know that when I was talking to the highway superintendent, he had mentioned that they were looking at making sure that the site was compacted and that we had the right materials that we were bringing in and able to make sure that it was a decent port at the end of the day.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm old, I'm afraid I'm old school, so.
See, these aren't really CPA issues per se, like this, like a project, like making sure that it's done the right way, you know. So some of it falls on the highway department, the building inspector, you know, Rebecca, whoever else,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so, some of the other things are easier, like if you're gonna buy a piece of property, that's easy from the town perspective, you know,
Yeah.
probably we get town council more than anything
But
else.
basically, those, you got four markers, this is the piece of
Right,
property.
right,
They don't create land. anymore.
right. Anything where we're building something or rehabilitating something are the hardest ones, especially because, you know, procurement and everything else, gotta make sure they're all doing the right thing. And so, I think we've done a good job,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
I
I'm
was just
sure,
asking.
but on the other hand, we've made some mistakes also, you know, so.
If you haven't made a mistake, you never done anything.
Right, right,
But what I'm saying is that technically, this committee is representing the townspeople
yeah,
and the townspeople's money,
yeah,
tax money, even though I dropped off a check down here today, tax collector. It's November 1st. But, you could get somebody up at town meeting and say, okay, you've got all your compaction reports and you've got all this and everything else. And technically, somebody has to have an answer for it.
yep. No, you're 100% right, believe me. It
I'm-
concerns me because I don't want, because somebody makes a mistake and they don't do something right, and then that reflects badly on community
And the
preservation.
townspeople could not
Right,
approve
somebody
next
say,
6
let's
projects.
get rid of it or something, you know what I mean?
I'm not trying,
No,
I'm just asking questions.
No, that's perfectly good. You know, you understand how it can be frustrating because, you know, it's tricky and yet people want to know. So I try to provide as much transparency and information.
No, this is great.
You know, but some people, no matter what you do, they don't like it.
So third-party contractors that are splash pad or anything like that, that's being built by a third party, they would have to pull regular permits or anything like
Yes,
that. would
we are
have to
not
do.
exempt from filling permits, we pull permits all the time for any of the work that's being done.
Even if the town is doing it themselves.
Yep, the only
So,
difference
like-
is we don't pay the permit fee, we're paying ourselves kind of thing.
Okay,
So they'd be subject to those inspections, regular inspections anyway,
Yeah.
because of the permitting.
yeah, well, and so.
More so third party than in-house stuff, because we expect high quality out of our own workers anyway.
Yeah, and then, like, they hired a subcontractor to pave down there today. So,
I'm sure Rennie looked at how many inches of binder are there and what top coat is and all that stuff. You'd
Yeah.
assume that that's what he would
Yeah.
be doing.
but.
He can't, it's his town as well, but it's his town as
Make a
well.
fool out of you and.
Absolutely. But it's his town as well, so he would want that to
Yes,
be.
no, I agree. I'm just,
Yep, no, it's a
I'm
good
trying to
question.
get a grasp
Yeah,
on
it's a good
things.
question,
and
yeah.
First meeting out, don't need to be too verbal.
No,
but,
that's fine, that's fine.
Eddie knows me from several
um,
committees.
Just a follow-up question on what Kim had mentioned.
Yeah,
When a contractor does a project, is there a warranty involved in the project, and how long is the warranty? For instance, it was done the playground down there.
yeah.
Is there a warranty that the equipment will last a certain period of time? And following that up to the tennis or pickleball court, is there a warranty that the surface will last a certain period of time? And do they have to post any kind of a bond or show that they have the insurance if it fails within a year?
Mhm.
So we have contracts that we initiate with the contractors, which is why procurement is so important and why it's really important for individuals to work with myself in making sure that we're getting that information. There's documentation that they must sign in order to say that their company's in good standing, like you had mentioned, their certificate of insurance, naming town of Groveland as an insured, and then also depending on the project and the specifications and the contract, we can ask for bonds to be placed, especially when it's a project that exceeds a certain financial threshold. Under 30B, we're required to have a performance bond, we're required to have a bond, bid bond payment, just like the elevator. Over at BZ, we have to have a certain amount of things that need to be complied with, and it's all dictated by procurement and the contract that we signed with the individuals who are performing the work. So there is some guarantee. It does get a little bit different when the highway is providing the work. We don't ask the highway department to give a bond, we don't ask them to do stuff like that, but when it is a third-party contractor, it's all stipulated in the contract and under Massachusetts general law.
And for instance, the playground that was done, what's the warranty off the top of your head on the equipment, at the playground?
I wasn't here when they did that project, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there was some type of warranty for some of the equipment that was there. I know they had done the one over at the Bagnell when I was here, but not in this role, but in a different role. And I know that there was an issue with the turf that they use, or the permeable surface that they used, and I know that there was some issues there, and we had to have them come out and replace it a couple of times, and it was not on our dollar. So I know there's some stipulations based upon whatever work is being performed, but I'd have to know the contract in order to know.
Okay.
But these are all issues that the more you're doing, the more attention you need to pay to things like this. And that's why I think a lot of it is falling on Rebecca, and that's why she kind of needs a little bit more help as far as the time. I know just like the procurement things take forever, you know, just to buy something, never mind after it's in.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of time and effort to do things, so.
Ad in the paper for 2 weeks, gotta go to the central register. I've been through it all with
Yeah,
6 years,
and then-
6 years on the Bagnell.
And then vendors, if you can even get a vendor that wants to do the job, you know, you're trying to get 3 estimates or 3 quotes or 3 bids, and sometimes it's very difficult to do that. So,
Do we require that, 3 bids?
well, for
Depends.
under a certain dollar amount, yeah, we
Yeah.
can just get, if it's like the lowest, you can get 3 quotes or 3 estimates, but then once it goes over $25,000, then you have to go through a formal bidding process. Yeah, so that's why I'm hoping that Rebecca can work out to get some assistance in that area, since we said we would fund this.
I bet she hopes to.
I'm just saying that for her benefit.
Yeah,
She's
totally.
sitting there.
I'm sure she's trying.
What are you looking for, goodie points?
No, I'm trying to force her to do what I've been telling her to do for so long. All right, so the last thing on the agenda here is discussion of community needs. So, we don't usually do this every year, but every 2 or 3 years, you know, we'll try to have an open meeting to encourage other people to come and tell us about some of their ideas. But frankly, most of our ideas come from within the committee or people we have contact with, you know. So I thought that we would just spend a few minutes, if you know of any things out there that might be worthy of applying for CPA funds, either this year or sometime in the future. So, historic. Any ideas, Linda?
Well, not this year, but down the line, we want to have the 3rd inventory to finish up,
Oh, yeah.
one more, but not this year. Bill, that's what you can jump.
What inventory is it?
House inventories. And another thing is we wanted to get Washington Hall on the historic register.
Sure, used to have my scout meetings.
I'm sorry?
Used to have my Boy Scout meetings there. I was the scoutmaster of Troop
Were
88.
you? Oh. Lots of memories in that building.
Used to
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
a fire in the potbelly stove on the second floor.
Have you seen it, how
Oh,
it
yeah.
looks now? Isn't it fantastic? Yeah, you know, so probably we should review any other historic buildings, adding them to the historic registry. Because for certain other grants besides our grants, you know, locally, it's okay if you just have the historic commission approve site as being historic, but other funding, other grants often require state or federal.
Well, also, these two things are would be matching grants.
Yeah, right.
So another project that I would like to maybe potentially put forward from a historic aspect goes around zoning. And I'd like to see whether or not maybe potentially we could engage with a consultant to explore how we can maintain a lot of the historic houses that we still have in town that are unprotected, and not necessarily go through a historic district, because those can be very restrictive. But if we can incentivize developers in the form of zoning like other communities have to maybe replicate the design, or maybe to restore and rehabilitate a historic home that has historic significance, and then as part of that there's like a lot that's next to it, they can rebuild a home that resembles that particular historic structure or historic decade or what have you, and then there's zoning allowances, so the setbacks are less or the lot size is less, but as part of it they are able to sell another home, which then gives them enough of the profit to restore the historic structure, and at the same time that new structure would also resemble the other historic aspect, keeping the small town charm and feel of the community. Because I know that in speaking with the Historic Society chair, Claire Walsh, she had mentioned how it's really sad that these days you see a lot of the houses being torn down or, you know, rebuilt, and the different types of housing styles are coming out, and you're not preserving the history and rural charm of Groveland. And I thought this might be a unique way to do that, like other communities have. So trying to help get a consultant to help figure out what that zoning would look like and identify those particular areas of interest or those types of homes we'd like to make sure are preserved.
Yeah, there are some historic houses in town that are rotting away.
Another one that we know about is the building at 46 Washington Street. That had some exterior work under that Mill Pond Phase 1 project, and we're kind of interested in protecting the building and seeing what it could be used for.
Is that the old water department?
Yes. I had some discussions with the Council on Aging about using the building, and they decided they didn't want to take it on as a project right now. That maybe change their mind in a year or two, but they weren't ready to commit to it this year. But you know, we could still start things with it, a plan. There's a bunch of things that could be done to at least keep the ball rolling with it, with that building.
Yeah. Actually, I got consulted about that.
Oh, you did, yeah, that's right.
And the problem that I see with that structure is that it needs abatement. If it's developed for anything more than a few people, the septic system is not
Oh,
adequate.
yeah.
And you cannot build a septic system within the pond, within 300 feet of the pond, which was the old swimming pool. My kids took swimming lessons there. So the only solution would be to put a sewer line across the pits and tie into the existing sewer, similar to what happened with the condo project up on Salem Street.
Yeah, so
And then I understand that right now, we have the Merrimack Valley bus comes through here free,
yeah,
and it doesn't go up there, and it won't go up there. But, that and, would, anything you do there would exceed 30% of the values, therefore the entire structure would have to be brought up to Building Code 10, which means that all ADA, sprinkler system, elevator, parking, paved parking for the occupancy. Those are all things that would take considerable engineering consideration.
Heating system?
Oh, yeah, no, heating system junk. I've been through that building when I was,
I don't think there's any heat in the basement at
no, there isn't.
all. Dirt floor.
No, but it's a nice old building, but, as far as for a little tiny senior center,
Not big enough.
no.
there's no question, there's a lot of challenges with that building.
But anyway, so, yeah,
The next category, open space. So, only one, under open space, you know, purchasing land is probably the most expensive thing you're gonna do with open space money. There is only one parcel that Rebecca is pursuing, kind of in partnership with the water department on Center Street. And that may or may not require CPA funding. But the other area is trail work and enhancements to the land that we already own. That's why I'm interested in getting someone from recreation who's interested in taking over some of the trail initiatives.
Like on the trail.
Yeah,
And I still get complaints about the rail trail,
yeah.
that there's no trailhead parking. Is that something that could be, that trail section, could that something be used for that? I think that on Main Street, where the electric company owns across the street,
Yeah.
it could be a section there where they could use for parking. Right now, they're parking on the side of the lawn
Yeah,
at the water department, and you must drive by there. It's really not safe.
no,
And the idea that they were gonna park at the soccer field and walk down there was ludicrous. That it's not gonna happen.
no,
And the other section that I was thinking about is perhaps where the old Fur Fish and Feather Club was off of Baldwin Terrace.
yeah,
And I don't know who owns that land. I don't know whether the town owns it,
no,
that they don't own it.
no,
But there's no place to safely park a vehicle at the Route 97 crossing. People could park at the Bagnell School, but they're not gonna walk up.
no, I know.
They're not gonna walk up to the trail. There needs to be some places that they can park. And even the area, it seems like with a little imagination, the area on King Street, the end of
Yes.
the trail.
Yes,
They should be able to come up with an area there where the people can pull in. You don't need a heck of a lot of parking. Six vehicles, I think, is about all you're gonna
Right.
need.
right. At the King Street, at the end of the trail where King Street is, the town actually owns abuts the National Grid property, and you could put 6 parking spots there. So that is a possibility over there. And then at the other end, I think Rebecca was thinking about partnering with the water department because where the pumping station is, it's basically grass, and they might be able to put a small parking lot there.
So
I
we're
think
working
that
with
across the
National
way
Grid to
where
do
the
that.
electric company is would be,
Another possibility.
that would be a more advantageous spot.
Yes.
So
The
that's
other-
what we're trying to get with the current landowner as
Oh.
well. So we're working with them so that GMLD can take over the property and that they would help initiate parking towards the bottom of that on both sides.
Oh. Well, yeah, we're looking at a land donation over there from Eric Harper. Wants to give the town 6 acres, and it's like past where the electric department is. Certainly you could drive in there and park, so that's another possibility.
Well, and then it's just a short distance that they could do the trail from that parking lot to Main Street.
Right.
And the crosswalk is already in place.
That, we think that the state has funded Havel's request to start building the trail from Main Street into Havel. So then it will go right through there, which would be great.
Right, where the sewer line's buried.
Yes.
That's where the main,
Okay, yeah.
1982 that was installed.
There's a bridge down there
Yeah,
that
there
was
needs to
always
be.
been the problem.
Yeah, they need to rebuild
They
it.
need to rebuild it the same way with going through Georgetown, when you go by King Street, there's a bridge that's out.
Yeah.
You can actually see it from 97,
Yeah,
just before the old 3Gs down there.
right.
But the other thing with that land that's down, which would have been the back of the Esty property, it had some history of it being an Indian burial ground.
Oh, really?
Yes, it did.
Oh, wow.
So that would have to be researched, because you don't want to step on those toes. And I'm not even a local. I've only been here 48 years.
Just a new one.
I'm just a rookie.
Recreation, I'm sure that Recreation Committee and Rebecca have some ideas, right?
Yes.
What are some of your thoughts?
One of such is the parking expansion for the Pines Recreation Area and the Town Hall complex, and allowing for better connection to be made for both of the parking lots. At the Pine Speedway reunion, at Groveland Day, and at many of the other events, a lot of people are utilizing the parking here and walking down to that particular area. And other than going all the way around onto the sidewalk and all the way down, and there's no sidewalking to the property at the Pines, we were looking at providing the connection through right over this direction over here. So that's one of the options that we're
There
pursuing.
used to be some timber stairs there, but they're rotted and gone.
It's gonna have to be handicap accessible.
It doesn't if the handicap parking spaces are located down at the Pines and located up here at the Town Hall. So then the other ones that we were looking at were to go back to the original agreement as determined at town meeting and look at the Shanahan parking lot and figure out exactly what the design would look like in order to provide better parking for that particular area, as the complaints have come in from the residents in that area, as well as the soccer folks that utilize the field, because there's no adequate parking for them other than on the roadway itself. And then we were going to be looking at Shanahan parking, the town hall parking, and there's one other that I can't think of off the top of my head, but another one to connect. I'll think of it, but Those are the ones right off the top of my head.
Sure.
Perhaps when you look at the soccer field, they, probably something that would be covered under CPA would be to tie those bathrooms into the town septic system. It's not that far away, it is deep there, but it just seems absurd that they have to have that pumped out probably once a year, when they're probably, Kim, what would you say, 25, 30 feet from the septic?
24 to 26 feet.
Just
So
to
you
the septic
could, you
system?
could do it with a good-sized excavator and 3 trench boxes.
Yeah, how far do you think it is from the bathrooms to the middle of the street there?
20 feet.
20 feet. So that's something that should have been done when it was first designed. It's just absurd that they have to have a holding tank there.
Yeah, I mean, you close Main Street for a day. They could mobilize all the equipment in the existing turnaround where the old Shanahan was. And walk out there. You have a water line and the sewer. And other than that, there is no underground utility, gas. So, but I think it could be done.
Yeah, well, if Rebecca puts together something to do with the Shanahan parking, it would make sense to roll that into
Or
that.
do it separately.
Yeah, do it separate.
Either way,
Because what will happen is the price for that will be added on to the price for parking, and the people at town meeting will go, wow! The other thing that you have with the parking situation down there is you have a deed issue.
it's,
We don't have a deed issue. There's a neighbor disputing, and they're currently in the court system right now dealing with it.
Okay? I stand corrected.
There was somebody who stood up at town meeting and made a statement, but it was not the truth.
It's dangerous over there. That parking, people fly down that street, getting the kids out of the car and moving.
Yeah, I know. I live on Park Street,
Yeah.
real close to the center of town. I get up and look, stand in my driveway and I watch them go down Main Street, where the bottom of Pleasant is.
Yeah.
Go the other way. Go Gardner Street.
Well, years ago, Al Lambert was on the fire department. He lived on Pleasant Street, and he was at Central Station. When I got on the fire department, I got assigned to South Station. So, I was going up Pleasant. Al was coming down. It was nasty for a few times. So then we agreed that I'd go Main Street. And he'd go Gardner. Well, at least we never wrecked each other.
Rebecca, the other thing was part of the parks is shade over at the playground. Is there any they have those sun tarps, those triangle, just kind of pull.
For the pines?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is there one that's up there?
There's not one that's up there, but that's the other project that we were talking about, because
Okay.
we wanted to provide additional seating. Well, the recreation committee was very adamant about trying to provide additional seating over at the Pines as well as additional shaded areas, because there's just the pergola or the
Yeah.
pavilion that's there now.
Yeah.
and then-
Playground gets hot.
And we were talking about
Playground.
trying to figure out exactly what we could do. And there's a couple of them that are, like you said, the sail ones that can go
Yes.
in either direction, so
Yeah,
you
they
could
just pull
kinda.
tight. They're kind of tight, but they're mesh, and they have enough somewhat.
I know I was talking to Selectman Neves about it too, because we were talking about it for the dog park, and there was some
Right.
concerns about like winterization and like how like if the snow sits on and the durability of it.
Right.
So we were trying to find different ways of trying to do it, but we were talking about trying to find additional seating and shade coverage.
Okay. Those are they're just latched on, so I think they can just disconnect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just on an eyeball.
Nice.
same thing exists at Bagnell and at Washington Park, Rebecca. Same
Which one?
thing. Washington Park Playground and
Mhm.
Bagnell, especially Bagnell.
Shade.
It's really intolerable. The last area and the most difficult one is affordable or community housing. So we've had maybe 4 proposals in the last 18 years related to that area. And unfortunately, none of them have really done anything significant.
Okay.
So I do have an idea this year for that as well. And we were talking with the Habitat for Humanity, and we were talking with some other communities, and we were talking about trying to utilize a home improvement type program that would allow for renovations to income eligible individuals for improvements that need to be made for their house. So we're working with the executive director over there and a couple of other communities to try and mimic some type of program that would allow us to utilize those funds and keep them here in Groveland.
Good.
Were you talking about increasing the numbers of affordable housing underneath HUD or underneath the state?
Well,
'Cause right now, the 58 units that are out back here are under HUD.
yeah, I
The
understand.
2 units on Gardner and the one on Cannon Hill Extension, the house up there,
Yeah,
that is technically on a budget underneath the state. They're talking of trying to combine all that and take the state out of it. They're starting to talk that up at some of the community meetings.
we had the buy down, that was the biggest thing that's been proposed, and it may end up happening, we don't know. But quite a while ago, there was an idea to build more affordable housing over here behind the fire department. And actually, we funded development of plans, but for some reason it just didn't work out.
Is that the same plot of land that I did the estimate for the senior housing complex?
It could be, I mean, yeah, it's that
That's the
same,
only piece of land there.
yeah, no, that's where it was. So that didn't work.
Yeah, because the other couple things, one of the town has upgraded the electrical on all the commercial buildings and everything else. And when they built that complex in 1984, they run the wiring in the ground. Well, the pipes are not big enough to support the new wires. So now, they want to upgrade the electrical at the housing. But, which means excavating from Main Street all the way in and then upgrading. Electric company says, we don't have any money for it, and you know, other places say, we don't have any money. So, I've gone that route too.
Well, so are you saying could CPA funds fund that?
No, I would have to seriously look at all that stuff, because, the only harebrained idea, and I'm gonna say harebrained, if the town eventually wants to build a senior center there, which we already have the design and everything else for, they would have to bring power in. So when they bring power into that, they just keep running the pipe another 100 feet, and guess what? You got it. But that's the pipe dream.
Yeah. literally and figuratively.
So, yeah, because it's not, there's no overhead wiring there, it's all, it comes out of the ground, then goes to transformers on poles in the housing complex.
Anything else, any other ideas anybody has for any of these things? You know, sometimes people come and they have a good idea, but it doesn't fit within what CPA funds. So a lot of times people want to build like some recreation structure, you know, like a stadium or recreation building, even, you know, so for recreational purposes or for educational purchases, even library or something, and you can't do that. So it's a real good idea, but it doesn't fit within CPA requirements. But one thing that I never really thought about was when a group of people wanted to build a dog park, and I said, well, gee, I don't know if recreation can fund that. So I went and looked up on the database that the Community Preservation State Organization keeps, and sure enough, there were all these towns that had paid or matching funds towards a dog park. So that was like news to me. So then I went back and talked about it. I also found another foundation that would do matching grants, and now we have a dog park, which
Gets used.
I never thought that CPA would pay for that, but it does. So, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes you hear ideas people ask, and it's always worth doing the research to find out if indeed it's possible.
The only thing I've had, the Fed HUD has a policy where there can be no smoking in any of the buildings. And the best you can do is 25 feet outside the building, so that people smoke doesn't go in and bother. And we've got a small percentage of tenants over there that are heavy smokers. And the way they've done it is they have to walk all the way out past the entrance,
Hang on
the
the
stone
bench.
pillars, and
Hang
sit
on
on
the
the
bench,
bench, and sit
yes.
on the bench.
They're always there.
So the one thought was to just put up a simple roof structure, and in the winter just have some plexiglass panels that go in around it, but in between, like building 2 and 3, where you'd be 30 feet from either structure. The snow removal is automatic because you got a sidewalk there. And that could solve the people that are complaining, I have to walk too far, I can't walk this far, and so forth and so on. I don't know if that would fall partially under CPA, or I just take it to the housing, to Clara, and see if she's got money for it.
Yeah.
That could potentially be a shade structure for social gathering,
Yeah.
and then it would be covered under CPA, would be my guess.
Yeah. So,
Mike, how about, we've been
Thank
talking
you.
about for a few years, a concession stand at the Pines.
Yes. So, as far as generally, you can't build a building under recreation, but you can build certain things, depends on what they are. That may fall into the category that's allowable. Remember when we were doing when Denise wanted to do the boathouse?
Yes.
Yeah, that was allowed, because it was for storing boats in, it wasn't for having recreation in it. And this may be the same thing, where you're not actually recreating in the building, it's a utility kind of,
It's a service
yeah,
facility.
yes, right. So I'll look these two things up and see if any other town has done anything like that.
What do they use for equipment storage down there?
Hmm?
What do they use for equipment storage down there? They just have a
Can't answer
can.
that.
Yeah.
Do you know, Rebecca?
What the.
Equipment storage for like Little League down there at the Pines, they have anything down there?
So we have the shed that's in the middle, and it's used more so by the softball field. But they have like a refrigerator, shelving with like bucket of balls and extra gloves. There's some material for the mower, the dragger, those types of
Like,
things that they
okay.
use.
Helmets, bats, all that stuff is kind
I
of
think a little bit, not
coaches
so
or-
much, but a little bit of that
Pitching,
type of stuff.
the pitching machine.
Yeah, they were
so that
trying
would
to
be-
clean it
Don't
up.
look at me, my son's 50. My granddaughters are 21 and 18.
All right, so I got on here that I would like to have our next meeting on Thursday, January 4th. But, you know, let's say tentatively, right? Tentatively, we've got to have it sometime in early January. And so that's why I said right away that first week, but we may or may not be able to have it that day. But I'll send that out when I send some other stuff out, and then you can let me know if you have some overriding reason why you can't do it that night.
As far ahead,
Yeah.
it's clear.
Yeah, I know, right? It's beautiful now, but who knows? Does anyone have anything else to bring up?
Thank you for
Motion to adjourn?
second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.